Hello, everyone, and welcome to Basic Binges, part of Nom Talk Network. On this show, we review popular shows while eating and drinking our binge-worthy snacks and drinks. It's so good to see all of you. I know it's been a while. It actually hasn't been a while for Yaya, which I just saw you on Wednesday.
Mm,
But for Mikey and Mike, who I haven't seen in such a long time, it's good to see
Not
you
seen
all.
in a bit. Oh,
I know it's been forever.
yeah.
I'm so excited to have you on to talk about this wonderful and amazing show. I'm your host, Jordyn Orozco, and right now I'm enjoying a Radaway um,
Mm.
Cutwater Tiki Hurricane, which it's not Radaway. It's definitely Rad Intake, so it's definitely doing its job. If you're watching live, don't forget to redeem those channel points, as we all know. And I'd like to introduce our guests for the evening. We have Mikey, and Yaya. Good to see you. What's going on? Let's start with you, Mikey. What are you chomping on? What are you sipping on?
How's it going, everybody? I just got the basic water and some chips. Nothing too
Yeah,
big. I want to eat afterwards. So yeah,
you
excited
got
to talk
some
about this.
rad. You got some rad water,
Yeah,
and we love it. We
exactly.
love
Some rad roach chips.
it. Yes. And
Yeah.
hello, Mike Manalo, man. It's been such a long time. I'm so happy to have you on. What
Yep.
are you chomping on? What are you nomming on? Why are you dressed so fucking amazing?
I wanted to dress for the occasion. It's been forever since I had a chance to talk to you, Jordyn. I'm excited to talk Fallout, as you could tell. I've got my Pip Boy here, and I've got my Vault suit. I actually, sadly, don't have really any Vault-oriented drinks. No dirty water, no pure water. I do have Star Wars blue milk, though, which goes with my suit because I thought blue and blue, why not? And yeah, I will be hydrating with blue milk. So there you go.
I love that. I saw that they were selling blue milk at Bristol Farms, like by me, and I was
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck?" And it's for the month of May, and I was like,
Yes.
"Okay, cool. Like, I'm
Oh.
down. I'm lactose intolerant, but I'll definitely take some dairy pills to do it." So I love that you're drinking that. And last but certainly not least, Yaya, what's going on? What are you chomping on? What are you nomming on?
okay, so I'm eating dinner. So my mother, as always, made dinner. Got some shrimp, some celery, some
Mm.
ribs. Some nice Brahmin ribs. Um, I was originally going to drink my Fallout tea, but they didn't survive the wasteland. God, they had bugs in it. Damn rad
Oh,
roaches, man. Getting into everything.
Yeah.
But originally, I did have Fallout tea. Like, little
that
German.
is awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Love
That
it.
is awesome.
Guys, if you guys don't know, I love
Very cool.
ghouls.
Yeah.
Ghouls. But alas, it did not survive the wasteland, so I had to scavenge, as wastelanders do. I got
Hmm.
Yeah,
myself some questionable blue liquid.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
I
Could be
think that's like the I think that's the Nuka-Cola what is it called?
Quantum?
Like the
oh,
yeah, the quantum.
Quantum?
it's the
Yeah.
quantum. Mm-hmm. It's gonna give me
Yeah.
hella rads, but it's hopefully gonna heal me up and
But
but
also
we'll
heal
see.
you like 50 HP. So
I know.
There you
So we'll
go.
see, we'll see. So that's
I
what I
love
have for
it.
today.
Nice.
I love it. Well, it's so good to see you all. Earlier I had some Taco Bell because I was craving Taco Bell. Had two Doritos Locos Tacos with a little single burrito and some little yeah, and some
Mm. Nice.
nacho cheese. So it was really good.
Mm.
But anyway, so if y'all don't know why we're here, we are talking today about episodes 4 through 6 of the Fallout series on Prime Video, which is proving to me with every episode that this thing is amazing. It's awesome. I went in with no expectations and I've been surprised the entire time. Um, before we get into it, don't forget that we are still fundraising for the Trevor Project. If you don't know what the Trevor Project is, it is an organization, nonprofit that basically prevents youth suicide for LGBTQ and queer individuals. So if you can donate to them, it'd be wonderful and amazing. They do awesome work. I know the students that I work with have used their sort of resources in order for them to succeed. So that'd be great. We're here to talk about episodes 4 through 6 of Fallout. So, in this sort of like, because each one is like an hour long, we're going to talk about themes, right? So, in the first episode, and thank you, producer staff, I meant to tell you this in the background, but thank you for doing the generalized synopsis breakdown because I was like, I forgot what I watched in four because there's certain things that you miss,
Mhm.
right? So, basically, we end up seeing Lucy and Coop. Uh, Basically, Lucy has been a sort of like slave of Coop. Um, all taken to the wasteland. They had this like huge axolotl that they killed, all that stuff, right? But in this episode, uh, basically, uh, she fights back, bites a finger off of Coop, and then Coop is like, "Oh, well then, since you've done that, I'm gonna take a finger off of you."
Mhm.
So basically, punishes her, takes her to a safe space where he's sort of like leading her sort of to a like, "Oh, you'll be fine here," and it's basically it ends up being a place where they harvest organs for people. And we get our first sort of like interaction with um one of those like androids that like helps you in the house before
The
the
Mr.
bomb.
Handies.
Mhm.
Yes, the Mr.
Yep.
Handies. Basically he trades her for a gang of organ harvesters for replacement chems, but collapses before he can use them. So if you don't know, ghouls are basically individuals that like, sorry, is it
It's
still,
echoing again. Yeah, I was gonna say.
okay, I just exited out of Twitch. Yeah, that's not me, I don't know who that is.
You were fine, and then like you weren't. It's weird. Did you switch microphones or
I didn't. Oh, see, now it's fine.
now it's fine?
Hmm.
Oh, is it Mike? Was it you, Mike?
That's what I'm wondering.
Me?
That's why I kind of muted. I was like, is it me? Like,
Hold on, wait. If I talk, does it echo? No, see, it's not you.
okay, that's good to know.
Oh my God, this is hilarious. All right.
Hmm.
This is a new wasteland mystery that we all have to solve, everyone.
It's Vault-Tec.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's Vault-Tec.
Vault-Tec.
Blame
Oh,
31.
it's always it's
Always
always Vault-Tec.
31.
It's always
Um,
31.
Basically, about to cut open, Lucy fights back and frees the captive ghouls that were held in this because they would harvest their things as well. Being naive as she is, she was like, "No, we can save you." There was one individual that she was like, "No, your name is Martha. Your name is Martha." They attack her. So basically, we see Lucy have her first kill in the entire series, right? And it's sort of like a shift between what's going on. She is still true to herself, so um she gives Coop basically all the meds that she found down there, and says golden rule, and then she leaves. So that's the whole Lucy sort of arc in this episode. We move forward to, sorry, Vault 33, in which Norm becomes suspicious after an exchange with a captive raider. He and Chad explore Vault 32, discovering that its residents died 2 years prior as a consequence of infighting, and that someone used his deceased mother's Rose's pit boy to let the raiders in. So Norm is suspicious, right? Like he's like, what's going on? I have no idea what this is. And him and Chet basically discover all of what's going on. And that's basically like this episode wrapped up in a synopsis. Maximus basically had is this the one where, hold on, sorry. Whoop. Oh, that's not the one.
Mm-mm.
So that's this episode in a nutshell. What did we think about the themes? I'm going to start with you, Mike. Mike Manalo, what did we think about this episode so far?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because Coop in this episode is a complete bastard, obviously. And in the next two episodes, as we start to progress, we start to see that maybe he's not nearly as evil or bad as we thought he was. And that's kind of this is sort of the start of it, I think. Like where we start to see these sorts of things. I think honestly it's great from if you're a Fallout fan, seeing a Super Duper Mart in live action is kind of cool. He's seeing a Mr. Handy's kind of cool. It's a really interesting episode. I did, in my opinion, I did find this one to be a little bit more fillerish
Mm,
than some of the other than the next two episodes, I think. But I think a lot of the big themes come really from Norm's portion of the story. And this idea that Lucy, who's innocent and was raised to be good and follow the golden rule in these vaults, and because of the vault society, that vault society that she's looked up to is starting to look a little bit shady right now. And we're starting to see corrupt politics, obsession with power as well, people wanting to remain in control. And I don't know if everyone here has binged through the entire series, but if so, then I think that this is kind of you'll see that this was kind of the start of this really interesting theme about the vaults and where politics, where all of the shadiness is actually going to get more and more prominent later on. So that's what I liked about this episode. It kind of kicks the door open for those sorts of ideas to persist heavier as the season progresses.
yeah, and I think for our friends that have played the games, we all know that most of the vaults, and we get to this later on in the last two episodes, most of the vaults were made as an experiment for humanity, right? And like we sort of get this theme, right? Which is why I was so excited that Norm like took up the mantle as like being the lead investigator into this vault, right? And that most of them, except for like I think five, were, and there's hundreds of them, were experiments for humans, right? By these corporations, and so definitely we get to see sort of like a little bit of an iteration with that. Let's go to you, Mikey. What did you think about this episode? What did you think about the general themes?
So I thought get the whole idea of Lucy uh and Coop, basically, the whole journey of like, it was more of a journey of like, not only was Coop, you know, keeping her hostage basically, but he was also in a way kind of teaching her about the wasteland, how things
Yeah.
are, and how, you know, living in the vault, she's been so naive and she's been so sheltered. She needs
Yeah.
to, like, he, even though he's going to give her up to get more right away, he's still kind of trying to teach her, like, if you're going to survive here, you got to learn these things, and these are the tough
Hmm.
choices. You bite my finger off, someone will just cut your finger off. That's
Yeah.
It's the cold hard truth about what the wasteland is, and you're gonna have to learn it. And then that's why he has no qualms about like just being blunt about it, because he knows what it's like. He's been living it. um so I thought the themes of like of him basically being kind of a reluctant tutor to her was definitely really cool. I also like the whole idea of um the vaults, while they're, again, it goes back to Lucy, where she's like, oh, the vaults are great, this is the best place ever. But they're, with her story, well, actually with Coop's story, at the end of the episode, when he starts getting involved back in the past with the vaults, and also Norm's story, you start to see that the vaults are definitely hiding something. There's something dark and
Hmm.
mysterious about them, and they weren't the idyllic paradise that people thought they were going to be. So while the vaults were supposed to train people to like take over, like, repopulate the world, they were they like there's Norm and Lucy are both learning that what they thought about the vaults is not true. And so that's what I liked
Yeah.
about this whole story. It's like it goes deeper into it. The audience starts to realize that, oh yeah, okay, so there is something dark and mysterious about there. Maybe the vaults aren't as, like, in the first few episodes it looks like really nice, but now we see that, oh, they're hiding something. That's on the surface. There's definitely something underneath that. So it deepens the mystery, and I thought really got me going into it. So yeah, that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I liked this episode, and I do agree. I feel like Mike, like some of the things that got introduced into these three episodes were like filler things where I was like, I don't know. But with the Norm story, I was like, this is pivotal to like what happens at the end. Like we know something is going on, right? Because with Moldaver, right? Like in the first one, like we knew something was suspicious. We're like, what the fuck, right? Like, what's going on? And so I kind of like that. So we have some redemptions. So Nom Talk redeemed hydrate. So everybody take a sip of what you're
All
drinking.
right.
But wait, there's more. And Heartless Seven, hi Eric, redeemed both hydrate and take a bite. So whatever, if it's yourself, if it's a rad roach, just do what you need to do.
I don't have anything to eat, but I'm just going to. There we go.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, I did get to you, right? Not yet, about 4? Okay. What do you think about 4? What did you think about the main themes in this episode? How did you think it played out?
I think with this one, like how last stream we talked about power, I think this one definitely had that power dynamic because we started with Lucy like getting on her knees in front of like
Mm,
Coop and drinking the water, and we end with Coop lying at her feet while like it was a very nice like contrast. Like Coop was like forcing her to do things she didn't want to do, even though he was teaching her, and the end like she still had her kindness even though like like she gave him the medicine without, she's like I'm not going to be like you. She
mhm,
like she learned because like we also have this point like when she's in the mart and then like her kindness killed people, like like her wanting to save Martha and all the other feral ghouls caused the death of, again, like yeah, those two were raiders but they were kind of chill bros, not gonna lie. They were like very like just okay. Like, I would have loved to party with those two. And Snip
Yeah.
Snip. I freaking love Snip Snip. Um, and then so like this one was definitely that. And I feel like even though like Coop was very much like, because I've like binge watching and this is probably my third time watching it now. I love the show so much. And like at first, the first time you watch it, you see Coop. I'm like, oh, why is Coop such an asshole? But when you rewatch it, you actually find out like he's more merciful than you think with Roger. Like he was like, he waited, he like purposely brought up like, stuff that make like Roger like Roger's last moments was him reminiscing like, food, something that made him happy before like, Coop shot him in the head. Like, yeah, it seemed like, it was cruel, but it was very merciful. Like Roger didn't have to, like, he didn't allow like Roger to go feral. He allowed Roger's last moment to be like, comforting. Same thing with Lucy. At first, you think that, like, he's being a complete asshole to her. Like, he has her, like, tied. He cuts off her finger, makes her drink, like, irradiated water. But this is all stuff that he's trying to, like, make sure she doesn't die. Naivety doesn't kill her. Her kindness doesn't kill her. And so, like, I feel like this, while it's such a amazing dynamic, it shows that as the ghoul, Cooper is still in there somewhere, very very, but he's still like at the foundation of it. Yeah, is it buried under like like being like like the jadedness, all the like hate, all the anger, all the like stuff? Yes, it's buried, but he's still in there. Makes him a lot hotter. I'm like, I would love to be at his knees, but like beyond like I wanted to be like but anyways, but as I said, I'm thirsty, guys.
mhm,
I'm
mhm,
simping. But also with the Norm, like it's very like we have like starting this like weird like because originally he even admits himself he was a coward. He never took
mhm,
interest in the vault stuff. He
mhm,
never like he was a coward. He hid while like the like all the shenanigans was happening during episode 1. But now we start to see him without his sister to fall back on, without his father to fall back on. He's starting to grow in himself. He's growing his own backbone now, and I love to see like the character growth with him. And then we're starting to get like really like uneasy. It's like it's crazy, like all these little hints at little stuff. Of course, like if you watch it, in the end, what happens. But it's like
mhm,
it's building that suspense, and then the fact that they go to 32, and then like we see all this like all the corpses, and of course we find out like, oh, why do they have his mother's pit boy? Betty, like Betty, yeah, Betty's not as like this nice grandma as she appears to be.
Yeah.
Like, I love the dynamic with Stephanie and like Chet though. That was like hilarious. Like
Mm-hmm,
he was like
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
jumping his bones and he's like, "Oh, you're one wet lady," and she just instantly like screams and like her water. It's so absurd. It is so crazy, but I love how they do add little stuff like that in the show, just kind of to like because the games are absurd. There's like absurd like situations that we find in the game too. It's not just all like yeah. So this
Yeah.
episode was amazing. So I do disagree that it seemed like filler. I think it was a good character progression more than anything. We have a transition. Like now Lucy's because she like at the end of the episode, she left the ghoul there. He can't stop her. She's like taking charge. She's all like golden rule motherfucker and like just yeah. So I feel like this one has
Yeah.
more character growth rather than story progression.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, I feel like every episode so far, like there's nothing that I've been like, this is a red flag. I don't like this is a stupid episode. I feel like each episode contributes to the entire series. So I definitely loved that progression as well. I just want to let you know, Yaya, Nom Talk redeemed You're So Punny for you. So the next time we come to you, you have to come up with a little pun.
Why
Just let
Nom Talk? Why? Why?
well,
Okay. Dude, that was me last time too. Okay, okay.
I feel like it's targeted.
I feel
Um,
I feel targeted. I'm the only woman
okay.
here.
I mean, I love that. I love that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into a description of the last two or the next two episodes, and then we can talk about them simultaneously because I feel like obviously they interact with one another. So in episode 5, which is called The Pass, Maximus confesses his true identity to Thaddeus, who is his squire. But disgusted, Thaddeus disables Max's power armor and then leaves with Wilzig's head and CX-404, which is the dog, right? Lucy basically finds Maximus as she escapes sort of the organ donation place. And they agree to work together to retrieve the head. The pair stumble upon the ruins of Shady Sands, a once thriving post war city, and Maximus's former home in their pursuit. Maximus is injured by a fiend when they cross the bridge. And while searching for medical supplies in an abandoned Vault-Tec building, the two accidentally fall into Vault 4, which, if you were paying attention to Cooper's story, you knew that Vault 4, which actually comes, I think, in episode 6, Vault 4 was supposed to be like the idealistic Pleasantville vault that was happening. But meanwhile, back in Vault 33, Council President Betty Johnson is elected as overseer. However, Norm hacks Vault 32's central computer and finds that Vault 31 has provided the overseers, including his father, for 32 and 33 since the day the bombs fell. Betty orders that Vault 32 be repopulated by 33 once cleared of deceased dwellers. So we sort of see this sort of interaction between the vault, what like all of them, and they're being like, oh, okay, cool, like we're gonna repopulate this, even though it's been like taken over by, you know, um, raiders, right, and Moldaver. So moving on to episode 6, we see that Lucy and Maximus are greeted by Birdie, a Shady Sand survivor, and Ben, the Vault 4 overseer. They explain that Vault 4 has opened itself to the surface, taking in many refugees from Shady Sands and the surrounding area. While Maximus slowly acclimates to the vault, Lucy is horrified over the refugees' eccentric rituals and worship of Moldaver as the Flame Mother. Keep in mind that some of these vault dwellers have some weird sort of things going on with their physical appearances, right? We got like noses on their forehead. We have like the overseer having a cyclops eye, right? Like
Yeah.
we have these like weird things that are going on. We're like, what the fuck is going on, right? Basically, Howard wakes up to find an armed posse has arrested him. Oh, not Howard. Yeah, Cooper. Howard wakes up to find that an armed posse has arrested him for past crimes. He stalls for a time to regain strength and then easily overpowers and kills them. Convinced that Vault 4 is hiding something, Lucy ventures to the forbidden level 12, where she's told not to go into. She uncovers human experiments before getting caught, but it is explained that her Vault 4 citizens fought back against these scientists and now live in peace. So pre-war Coop becomes conflicted over the secrecy of Barb's association with Vault-Tec. He is invited to a covert meeting to discuss the conspiracy behind Vault-Tec, hosted by young Moldover, who is he gets invited by his friend. So that's the overall arching things that happen in episode 5 and 6, right? Tons of shit happens, right? Like we see all this stuff. One of the jarring things for me that I saw was the experiment where women are basically impregnated and then basically give birth to these things that basically eat them when they're in the tub, which, to be fair, is not the worst thing that you see in the Fallout games if you play the Fallout games, right? Like, there's so many horrific experiments that were played out in these vaults, right? And I think it's also amazing to say that people in Vault 4 are so freaking naive, just like I sort of like Lucy, where she's like, "Oh, I'm expecting the worst, like I'm gonna die," and they're like, You've been exiled, you gotta go." And she's like, "That's it?
Yeah.
Like that's all, you know?" So um let's talk about just the general themes of these last two episodes, right? Because there's a lot going on, right? Like we get sort of like story progression of everything. Let's start with you, Yaya. What did you think about 5 and 6? What did you think about just the general overall themes of each episode?
Okay, and I got my pun. Thirsty as usual. The gulper might be dead, but Cooper should still work out because I gulp him down anytime.
Nice.
I love it.
Definitely these two episodes is starting to like give you more questions than answers. It's like, one, how is Moldover alive? If she was like pre-war, it's like, and she's not a ghoul. It's like definitely a lot. And oh my gosh, like that ritual definitely caught me off guard. I was watching it and suddenly I was like, but definitely this was really interesting because like we like the fact that we see like that pre-war Vault 4 and then we see post-war and we like those two like are the exact same people in the husband and the wife. It's the same thing in the advertisement and it's the same too in like the video who gets killed by the gulper. Now we kind of know that gulper that we saw most likely could have been the same gulper from the video because these gulpers, if you play Fallout 4, that I think the only time that you see gulpers is in Far Harbor.
Yeah.
And those are completely different. Those are salamanders. Those are irradiated. Like those are like, you know, mutated salamanders, while the gulpers here were axolotls with little fingers. Just so it's very interesting and it's definitely, yeah. So it's like I lost my train of thought. Oh my god. But no, definitely these two episodes, I feel like it's kind of revealing, but at the same time, it's definitely making you like, what is going on? These two episodes are definitely funky. You definitely start seeing a lot. And also like the fact that like I guess like the guy, the governor or whatever, it's NCR, right? It's the New California Republic, technically, if I remember correctly. Which is if you play 76, you're like, what happened to the NCR for it to suddenly become just like one building? Where is the NCR? So I'm like, I love the little like hints of like the games from like, you know, not 76, sorry, New Vegas, Fallout 4 and all that kind of stuff. But definitely like keep on losing my train of thought. There, I do have some like I'm like, this is also the episode we see the, oh my god, because I'm like kind of blanking out. All the episodes are kind of merging. This is the one we see that like, you know, Cooper is the atomic boy, like the little like he is and like the Vault-Tec blue is actually based on Cooper's ideal color. And I'm kind of like, for me, as someone who played the games, I'm like, I don't know how to feel for Cooper being the origin of the iconic stuff that we know from Fallout, the Fallout series. I'm just like, oh, like, I feel like they're really emphasizing like war lore as more than we have in the games. And sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought a lot, but it took all my brain power to come up with that. um, so I'm like kind of like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but yeah, so like I'm just like liking the little nods. Of course, I think I talked about this last stream about how I don't know again how to feel how about like ghouls turning feral based on not having enough Radaway because we don't see that lore much in the previous like games because we have pre-war ghouls. We if you play Fallout 4, you have the Vault-Tec rep who you'll run into in Good Neighbor. He's like the Vault-Tec rep that you see in the beginning of the game, and then you see him there. But I'm pretty sure that like we don't have any of this stuff. We have Oswald the Outrageous. Like he's a pre-war ghoul too. Never took any of that stuff to prevent from going feral. So I'm like kind of not with the adding of that lore into the world of Fallout. So more than that, I'm like these two episodes are definitely like really really interesting. Love seeing like because here we also see like Cooper being like like pre-war Cooper is so it's so different than like the ghoul. And then now it's making me a question: what forced him into what he is now? I'm like, I understand like the wasteland's not nice, like the wasteland's not a forgiving place, but what changed him that much that he's this vindictive? And we kind of do find out a little bit later on, but not as much. But definitely these two, I think it's so interesting because like we know that like we always see Moldaver as like an antagonist. Why are the people in the vault like praising her, worshiping her as the Flame Mother? It's like we're starting to get like, because we've seen this whole series so far basically from Lucy's perspective. It's like everything is like, we see like her father being kidnapped. We see all this stuff happening. So we are kind of getting like that reality like check that Lucy is getting because like for her, like, she wakes up in the vault, she's like, this is the most beautiful place there is. And then it's like, but she is the one that's like actually kind of being suspicious as opposed to Maximus. She's the one questioning. So we're starting to see that change in her, that like she's not completely naive or like brainwashed by like the Vault-Tec like propaganda anymore. Just like Wilzig said in the beginning, like will you go back when you're a different animal altogether? And we see that change in her. We're seeing that like that progression, while it's like Maximus that is becoming like less wasteland. He's like actually becoming more like okay, I can get down with this. Oh my god, what's hot water? What's a hot shower? What is like all this food? So I love seeing like the change of like the characters, but of course we're not losing that core. I'm still disliking Maximus, by the way. I'm still not happy with him. But it's with these episodes that I actually start liking Lucy more, while in the first 3 episodes, I'm just kind of like, girl,
you're dumb.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm like really love the everything that's just starting to come to light. But at the same time, it's making us question, it's making Lucy question, and we don't know what the hell is going on. So I actually really, really like that.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, Eric redeemed talk in third person with all the males except for Lucy. I mean, sorry, except for Yaya. So Jordyn has to request that Mikey and Mike talk in third person. So, moving forward with this, Jordyn thought that these episodes were sort of like a transformational episode for all of the characters. Jordyn thinks that Coop is still sort of like, we're still sort of navigating that area, but Maximus for sure, like Jordyn is not still with, like, I'm like, you gotta go. like there's no addition, like I get it. And even with the relationship between Lucy and Maximus, like I didn't see it. Like there was no chemistry, there was no, like it just like it kind of happened. I don't know. And I don't blame that on Lucy's character. Jordyn doesn't blame that on Lucy's character. I think it's like Maximus wasn't fully thought out of that, right? Let's go to you, Mikey. what did you think about these episodes in general, these last two
Right.
that we're talking about, 5 and 6?
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
Mikey thinks that you guys are being a little too tough on Maximus. No, actually, Mikey thinks that Maximus actually he's starting to develop more of a character. I understand that Mikey understands that the chemistry isn't quite there between Lucy and Maximus, and Mikey agrees with that. But I think we're starting to understand where we're starting to understand where Maximus is coming from, like the sheltered life that he lived. Like he doesn't understand sex, he doesn't understand, what it's like to like take a hot shower, things like that. And I thought it was interesting seeing things from his perspective because Mike believes that if you have the perspective of Coop, who was out in the wasteland and just trying to survive and going through all the hardships, perspective of Lucy, who is living in pretty much luxury in the vault. But then there's this other perspective of um of Maximus, who was living in the wasteland but had a different experience than Coop, a very orderly or very cult-like living experience. And so it was interesting to see that uh, come out and kind of Maximus explore that. As far as Lucy goes, I thought these were Mikey thinks that these were like really interesting. It interesting episodes because it showed Lucy's how in the beginning where she's talking about her skills and stuff like that. It kind of
Yeah.
like this kind of like highlights her skills,
Mhm.
like about how um you know she's very intelligent, she asks a lot of questions. She's like these episodes really highlighted the fact that she is a very much like a character from the game, basically. Like you pick the attributes and stuff like that. And so I thought that was really cool. Also I thought Mikey thinks that Coop's story in this was by far the one that was most moved forward. I also like the
Mm.
little cameo by Matt Berry
Yeah.
from What We Do in the Shadows. Yeah, it was great
Yes.
to see him in that one. And I think like the stuff in the past is very much like a corporate espionage kind of political thriller type thing. Like he's going on kind of a noir style kind of story, and then you go forward and it's like he's in the West. It's like you seeing the two different types of Coop, and that's why I think he's like the breakout character. Like Walton Goggins is amazing in this show, and I think these like his story in these few episodes are it's so interesting, and so it brings you in, and that's why this series is so good, because you have three. I'll admit Maximus is a little bit of the weaker of the three, but you still have three interesting stories and three interesting characters. And while there's no chemistry between the two for the romance, there is something there. There's some interesting. They're bringing something to characters that's very interesting and keeps you watching. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about that.
Yeah. I sorry, what the fuck was that? I definitely agree. I loved the cameo with basically the person that voiced the help, like
Mr.
literally,
Handy's, yes.
yes,
Yeah.
the Mr. Handies in like my first, interaction with them was in Fallout 4, right? Like where,
Cogsworth.
like, yeah, where it was like Cogsworth, and you're like, fuck, like he sounds just like him, and I love it, and I love how Coop has that relationship with him, and they
Yeah.
have this whole dialogue, and it's beautiful and amazing. I also like low key before we get to the last two episodes, I love the relationship that Coop had with the wife, right? Like we get this sort of like
Mhm.
interaction, we get like all of
Yeah.
these things, like we just get a super dynamic relationship that isn't troubled until it is,
Mm.
right? Like
Mhm.
He's
like
such a good
until like
hubby.
he
Yes.
He
is,
is.
and then
Yeah,
she ends
he
up being
tries.
an asshole, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, like I loved the interactions between all of them. It's really great. Mike Manalo, what did you think about these last 5 and 6? How did you
Mhm.
think they played out in the overall series?
First off, Mike would like to know, does Mike have to talk in third person still?
Yes.
Okay. So Mike thinks that if there's one word to summarize the theme of both of these episodes and potentially even the series as a whole, that word is management. There's a couple of scenes that stick out here, that Mike really liked. One of them was the introduction of the project manager from Vault-Tec, talking about how important management is. The other scene that I really love, that Mike really loves, is when Coop is talking to his wife about who's making the decisions about whether or not a dog should be allowed in the vault. The other thing that we're seeing is management is being, introduced as a concept here, and later on we realize that management is when you start to manage everyone, or when somebody is in a position where they feel like they can manage everyone, the worst things can potentially happen. And a lot of these two episodes foreshadow that. I think Mike thinks that when we take a look at Maximus, this is a character that has been managed his entire life since, he was saved by the Brotherhood soldier in the power armor in the fridge. He had no one, and then he found the Brotherhood, and they're barking orders at him. So I think Eunice, you mentioned it was kind of cult-like, in a way. We see that happening to him, and then we see that happening with the Flame Mother in the past, and then we see that also happening with Vault 4 overall, like the effect that they have on Maximus, but also the effect that the Flame Mother has on Vault 4. And then you have managers like the Vault 4 Overseer, who's going around talking about refugees like they're the plague, Really interesting role by Chris Parnell, by the way, from Saturday Night Live, almost unrecognizable because of the
That's what it
eyeball.
was.
Yeah. But then this idea of management with a bureaucracy is something that I think comes into play very strongly as Vault-Tec becomes a larger presence in this series. And Mike thought that if there is a theme that starts to persist in all of this, it's the danger of that management, the danger of what it's like to manage people, which is why when you have a character like Coop, who kind of represents chaos, that's actually something where we start to think our perspective, much like Lucy's, shifts to maybe there's merit to that chaos when management is calling all of the wrong shots that are causing the worst in society, in people, in everything. So that's kind of what I liked about what Mike liked about these two episodes, is we start to see that picture being painted, and it really sets us up for that end game. Smartly written episodes with great cameos from Matt Berry and several others too. But yeah.
Yeah,
can I also say that I love that it's the dog that like pushes him to like it's not anything else, it's his dog that like pushes him to like be like, no, like question everything. It's not like just his wife, just his kid. No, it's the dog. And I'm good man.
Which is foreshadowed when he saves
dog meat.
Yeah. Which we find out he's a dog person, and we see why, and I love that. Mike loves that. But yeah.
And that's the name of the dog that you get in Fallout 4 is dog meat.
Dog meat.
Dog meat.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Also the thing is I think we get dog meat every game. I think dog meat is your first companion in every game, if I remember correctly. Isn't it? Do you not get dog meat in Fallout New Vegas?
I cannot.
I don't know. Yeah. We can look it up. And I love it. Yeah. Overall, I think that these 3 episodes added things where it was almost like these 3 episodes were side quests in the main games, right? Like where it was like when Lucy goes to the organ donors, right? Like that's a side quest, right? Where I was like, oh, you have to save these people, and then you end up and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And and you're like, no, no, this isn't happening. And so I loved it. And um it's like and it's so funny, like this series made me replay Fallout 4.
Mm.
And to be
Mhm.
fair, I'd never completed the game before this series. Now I'm
Yeah.
invested as much ever as I am in it. And I'm like, ooh, I gotta do this. Ooh, I gotta do that, right? And I think with these 3 episodes, it's sort of like it was almost I'm discovering things that I didn't know, right? Like for example, like Norm finding out that he could hack into this computer and find out that he could, see the history of like what's going on with Vault 31 through 33. And you can do that in the Fallout games, right? But I also like the story in general, right? Where and this is something that I've said, especially in our last stream, where it was like, I like how we get to see sort of like the humanity of Coop before we get that sort of like rough edge, like cowboy persona that he's so used to playing as an actor that he now is, right? And I loved all these episodes. I thought they were good, especially 5 and 6. Um,
Dogman's in
I
every game but they might not be the same dog, but they might be from the same lineage.
Ah,
Nice.
oh, I love that. Look
nice.
at that lore.
Nice fact. Yeah.
But at the same
Yeah,
time, like timeline wise, how does it make sense though? Because the Dogman we get in Fallout 4, and this is 10 years after, it's a different Dogman.
it is.
I don't know. But anyways,
Hmm.
sorry. Anyways,
Yeah,
onwards.
I know we probably won't get this for until 7 or 8, but okay, spoilers, whatever. When Thaddeus left the dog in the like Nuka-Cola thing.
The red
Yeah. Rocket
Yes,
thing. Yeah.
but
Yes.
and that's where you discover him
in
in
Fallout
Fallout
4.
4.
Yep.
I was like, yes.
Yes.
It was so beautiful and amazing.
Agreed. I was like,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, wait. Heartless Redeemed. I love y'all. That's the last of my Regina because he redeemed all that shit for us.
Yay.
Yeah. But anyway, we're reaching the end of our review of episodes 4, 5, and 6. Let's give our last minute thoughts. Let's start with you, Yaya. What did you think about what do you think's gonna come next? I know you probably have binged all of them, but if you haven't, what do you think's gonna come next, and what do you think overall of this series?
um, I did binge all of it, but I'll go back to like the first time I watched it. The questions I've had when I first watched it is that we have all these emphasis on like Shady Shore. We've seen like Shady Shore mentioned so many times now, and it's not like and it's like always kind of like in passing, but it's starting to become a point that it's starting to become more important than we think, or maybe. So I'm like really hoping. Well, I'm really excited to see what's the whole like story with Shady Shore. Um, it's get there's been emphasis on Lucy's lineage. It seems like everyone is like have you noticed every time like she says her last name, people are like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm really excited to see what comes with that. But all in all, like this series so far has had me on the edge of my seat. I think like a lot of the things that I expect are completely like it gives me it just throws me off. Like I expected one thing and it's like, oh no, haha, you thought. Um especially not just like a storyline, just like we were talking about how Maximus doesn't know what like sex is. He's like, oh, like other nights, not me. Like it pops like a pimple, and I was like, Maximus, boy. I was like, oh my god, what? It's actually like Lucy's note so nonchalant. I'm like she's like, you want to have sex, and it's just like, get it, girl, get it.
Mhm.
And like that's the thing with that episode too. Like you see, it zooms out and we see like the sign that says like text. What was it? Test experiment or like test subject.
Test
There you go.
subjects.
Test
Yeah.
subjects. And you're like, oh no, what are they gonna do to them? It's like it. I love how like they're emphasizing things that actually turns out not that important, but the hints at things that you think isn't important becomes more important than you think. I really love how this like show's going. It's throwing all of my expectations off. We're just getting like all these random stuff, but at the same time, it's so cohesive. And as I said last stream, I love the nods to the game. This show is perfect for people who's never played Fallout, who's never like fallen in love with the series, but it's also great for people like us who have played it, who loves the series, who loves like all the little Easter eggs. This show is just amazing. And I'm like, while like each episode is like super hella long, I'm still like not bored. And that's like if you know me, seen like know me and like heard me talk about like stuff in previous streams, you know I get bored really easily. I get like thrown out. I'm like if the pacing is off, like honestly, if even if Cooper wasn't in it, even if we didn't have this ghoul for me to like constantly fixate on, I still love everything that is going on. It's drawing me in. It's like it's just crazy and I adore it so much. And I'm just like, I can't wait for more. I can't wait for more Cooper. I want to see more. I want to see him like, all of his badassery. And I want to see him as like daddy. And I want him to see him as a doting husband. He's just everything wrapped up in a perfect little ghoul present. And I am just waiting for that to be opened. Anyways, so far I love it. I can't wait for the last 2 episodes. I for sure know that it doesn't seem like everything's gonna get wrapped up. Episode is not long enough for all the questions they have for us. So I'm hoping Amazon doesn't do the shitty thing it does and like cancels after 1 season.
Yeah.
Nope.
I know. I'm really hoping we actually, but
They've officially greenlit season 2, so you're good. Yeah, you're good. They posted it on the official socials too. So.
Okay. Okay, lit. Slay.
Yay.
Oh my gosh. So I'm just really excited because we only have 2 episodes left. It's not gonna get like, wrapped up in a beautiful little bow. It's definitely gonna give us more questions and we have answers. But so far, I love the questions and like the stuff that it's making us feel. So I never thought I'd like the show this much, not gonna lie. I was so full on ready to hate it and only loving it for the ghoul, but I am yeah.
Yeah, I was the same way. I'm like, I went in with no expectations and I was like, I'll watch it and yeah, I'll host it. And then I was like, this is perfect. It was just absolutely amazing. Mike, with your Pit Boy in view, let's go to, I know, is that thing heavy?
It is actually, and it's tight too, but that's fine. It's fine. It's for art. It's for art, guys.
It's for the gram. Let's go to you.
Yeah.
Where do you think the series is going? Where do you think, what's gonna happen?
So I did binge, of course. So I'm gonna try my best not to spoil anything for the future episodes, right? Because I think there's a lot that we kind of touched on here from a foreshadowing standpoint that we know we're gonna talk about in the future. I will say this though, I think that there is one question that is left unanswered by the end of the season. Hopefully it's not a spoiler to ask it, but it is related to something that happens at the end of 6. And that is the big question surrounding Moldaver, right? Like, and like Coop, we know how he's alive 200 years later. I still think it's a lingering question, right?
Yes.
Like we've never answered that. And that's something that I'm very curious to see, answered in the future. Having said that, though, what I love about this show and just to kind of echo Yaya's sentiments is every episode leaves you wanting the next episode immediately. That's what makes it so good from a binge-worthy standpoint. I definitely think that when you think about video game adaptations, it's a small list that are really successfully adapted well. I think this is definitely right up there with Last of Us, with even Mario to agree if you wanted to take a look at that too. You know, Mario's a fun one, but like Last of Us is if Last of Us is the gold standard, this is right under there. It is really good. It's harder, of course, to craft a story around it than it is to craft a story around The Last of Us because that's a straightforward story. We see that played out in the game, whereas Fallout as a game series is a lot more abstract. You're the character, you're exploring all of that. So for Jonathan Nolan, Lisa Joy, Geneva Robertson, I forgot her name, and then Graham Wagner, I think, the showrunners, for them to have created this story in this wasteland, make it so faithful to the games and the spirit of the games, but also be a really intriguing story that we as fans don't know where it's going to go. I love that to death. I think that that's fantastic. I'm definitely interested in seeing a lot more about the McClane lineage and what happens, why everyone knows Rose McClane. I'm definitely excited in figuring out how the people within the vaults or the Raiders got Rose's Pip-Boy and what happened between what's going on between 31, 32, and 33. Because the mysteries there are just, the questions are just beginning to rise and compound and get like crazier and crazier and crazier. We wouldn't think that Norm's story would be as compelling as it was, certainly when we first meet him. And I love that he's, to Yaya's point, getting just as strong an arc as Lucy is in terms of this naivety just fading away and them becoming stronger and smarter individuals. Her having to go to the wasteland for that, but Norm's just kind of still being in the vault, evolving in that sort of way too. That I thought was very interesting and very intriguing. So finding out answers to that, finding out answers to what happened and how Moldaver became the Flame Mother, all of that, and what it all has to do with the vaults and Vault-Tec and everything. That's intriguing to me. So I'm looking forward for people who haven't binged it to discover that, and for all of our unanswered questions from season 1 to eventually be answered in season 2, especially with and I won't spoil anything, but the cliffhanger from this season was, it kept me wanting more. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but not least, let's go to you, Mikey. What did you think about these last, the 5 and 6, and how it all came out?
So I also was not really looking forward to the show. Like because I'd played the games, but I never finished the games. So it was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. But I think the thing about the show is that it goes deep into the lore and it's not afraid to do that. And if it's written well, like it is in this show, it hooks you. And that's what's so great about this show is that it hooks you. And that's why, like, I think all of us have binge watched it until the very end because you just kind of want to get more of it. Like, you want more of the lore, you want more of the story, you want more of you want to find out what happens to these characters. And I think it's a testament to like the writing of the show that like they've been able to craft such a deep and fulfilling story in just 8 episodes. So it's really cool that they've done that. I think for people that are just getting into it and may not have seen the last 2 episodes, keep an eye out on some of the side characters that you don't see or in here because they come up and they might not even come up in the last episode, but they might come up in the next season. And so it's really good to like, look at it that way and say, oh, this character might play a bigger part in season 2 or so on and so forth. So I think it's a good way to like look at it that way. Don't go online, don't look anything up, because I guarantee like the end is going to be, all the surprises are going to be worth it. So when going into it, get into the lore, and then after the last 2 episodes, dive into it because it's going to be worth it. It's going to give you hours and hours of just entertainment. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, I appreciate what you said about the lore because I've been on like Fallout talk, right? Like on TikTok, and like the lore that you miss when you're playing the games
Mhm.
is immense. It's like it's so in depth, and people will take the time to explain to you all of that. And I feel like this show does credence to the fact that like it gives you what you need to know about like what's going on in the world, right? Because things have drastically changed, not just from like nuclear radiation, but just in general about how society works. And so I love that.
Like the
Yeah,
fact
and
that
so,
we go from pre-war money to caps, like
yeah,
really
Yeah.
what the
bonkers. It's
fuck?
like,
Like I would have saved him like now and then just left him somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
right?
I would have just done that. Like it's fine. But also pre-war you can like exchange for like real money like in the game. So I get it, but it's not much, but it's still, worth something. But anyway, that is all the time we have tonight to talk about the Fallout episode 4 through 6 on on Amazon Prime. Shout out to my guest, Mike Manalo, and the wonderful Yaya. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Tell us where we can find you. Let's start with you, Yaya.
Well, you can find me here on Twitch at My Hamachi, where I stream Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I do stream Fallout sometimes. So be on the lookout for that. You can find me on YouTube at Jade Yaya, where I make videos about Chinese culture, history, traditions, and all that fun stuff. And you can also follow me on the socials like Instagram, TikTok, and all that fun stuff, either at Jade Yaya or at My Hamachi.
We love it. And Mikey, where can we find you on the socials?
You can find me at GripC47, mostly on Instagram. I used to say all socials, but I look at it as like, well, I only do Instagram really, so you can find me on there basically. So yeah.
Yeah, that's like me. I'm like, I'm only on Insta. Like, don't follow me anywhere else. I love it.
I mean, TikTok is getting banned, so.
I mean, that part. And Mike, where can we find you on socials? I know you are everywhere.
No, TinyBullBoy182 on Instagram and Twitter, but also you can see my work on the nerdsofcolor.org, whattowatch.com, and that's it LA.
We love it. We love it. And you can find me on Instagram, CityStar13. I do have other socials, but I just do it to scroll, like to doom scroll, so it's like not even worth it to follow me on anywhere else. Thank you again for tuning in. Be sure to join our Discord to keep the conversation going, as well as subscribing to all platforms. We are at Nom Talk Network. Tune in to our 13 going on 30 Monday review. Until then, I'm your host, Jordyn, and I hope you all have a nomorific evening. Thank you for joining us.